There are moments in history when a forgotten idea resurfaces like a buried star, pushing its light through the soil of time. And when it does, everything we thought we knew about creation, the soul, and the nature of the divine shifts. This is exactly what happens the moment you encounter the teachings of the Sethian Gnostics, a mysterious spiritual lineage that claimed secret knowledge passed down from Seth, the third son of Adam and Eve. A figure they believed was not merely human, but a primordial beacon of divine awareness, sent into the world as a reminder of our true origin beyond matter. But who were these people, really? Scholars call them heretics. Mystics call them visionaries. And their enemies feared them because the Sethians dared to say what no other group would, that the universe we see is not the final truth, that a deeper, hidden reality exists above the gods humans worship, and that humanity itself contains a spark older than creation. In this video, we will journey into the heart of Sethian Gnosticism, a path woven from rebellion, revelation, and astonishing cosmic myth. We'll explore their breathtaking vision of the pleroma, their daring reinterpretation of the Creator God as a flawed architect, their exaltation of Sophia, and their shocking claim that humanity's true lineage is not bound to earth, flesh, or fate, but to something that existed before the foundations of the world. We'll navigate their sacred texts from Nag Hammadi, unravel their complex cosmology, and uncover why they believed that salvation was not obedience, but awakening. By the end, you'll understand why the Sethians were considered one of the most radical and most dangerous spiritual movements of the ancient world, and why, after nearly 2 millennia of silence, their teachings are re-emerging today, just when humanity seems most ready to hear them. To understand Sethian Gnosticism, we must step far beyond the boundaries of early Christianity. We must enter a world where myth and revelation intertwine, where ancient cosmologies flow across cultures like subterranean rivers, and where the quest for divine knowledge eclipses the rules of any religion. The roots of the Sethian tradition reach back into antiquity, far earlier than the Christian era, far earlier than the rigid structures of rabbinic Judaism, and perhaps even earlier than the civilizations that recorded their histories in clay and stone. Their symbolic ancestor, Seth, appears in the book of Genesis as the replacement for Abel. But to the Sethians, he was not merely a son of Adam. He was the first fully awakened human, a bridge between the divine world and the material plane. They believed Seth carried within him the remnant of a forgotten divine race, a lineage of luminous beings whose true home was not earth, but the pleroma, the vast spiritual fullness beyond the cosmos. This idea didn't emerge in isolation. In Egypt, where the sands concealed scrolls for nearly 2,000 years, religious groups freely exchanged mythic imagery. Jewish mysticism, Egyptian esotericism, Platonic philosophy, and early Christianity overlapped like concentric rings of cosmic fire. Sethian Gnosticism arose from this rich tapestry, absorbing symbols and ideas, but transforming them through a radical new lens. One of the central pillars of Sethian thought is the belief in a hidden, ultimate God, unknowable, immeasurable, beyond time and form. From this source emanated the Aeons, divine beings forming a cascading hierarchy of light. But something happened, a rupture, a divergence, a cosmic misalignment. Sophia, the Aeon of wisdom, sought to know the source directly, without her counterpart. This misstep generated a being outside the pleroma, a flawed creator, unaware of the greater reality above him. This being would shape the material world and proclaim himself the only God. The Sethians knew him as Yaldabaoth. Later writers would call him the Demiurge. But here is where the Sethians diverged sharply from other Gnostic groups. They did not view humanity as a mistake. Rather, they saw humanity, specifically the lineage of Seth, as the key to restoring balance between realms. The divine spark trapped in the human soul was not an accident, but a seed of rebellion, placed against the cosmic ignorance of the Demiurge. The Sethians believed that salvation was not granted through worship or obedience. Salvation came through Gnosis, direct, experiential knowledge of the divine source. This knowledge bypassed priests, doctrines, and institutions. It made every individual a potential bearer of revelation. Such a worldview was threatening, not only to early Christian authorities, but to every empire built on hierarchy and control. By the time Christianity became institutionalized in the 2nd and 3rd centuries, Sethian texts like the Secret Book of John, the Three Steles of Seth, the Apocalypse of Adam, and Zostrianos were labeled heretical. Their followers were pushed underground. Their scriptures were hidden, buried in jars beneath desert sands, waiting for the right moment in history to be rediscovered. And that moment came in 1945. Nag Hammadi reopened the Sethian world, and with it, a vision of God, humanity, and the cosmos that challenges everything we take for granted. To truly enter the world of Sethian Gnosticism, you must be willing to let go of the map you were given and step into a cosmos that behaves more like a living symphony than a mechanical universe. Because for the Sethians, reality is not a place, it is a process, a radiant unfolding of divine emanations descending from the highest source. At the center of this cosmology stands the invisible spirit, not a god in the way religions define one, but the unfathomable origin beyond all thought, form, or limitation. The Sethians described it as unutterable, immeasurable, perfect silence. It is being and non-being at the same time, generative yet untouched by its own manifestations. From this boundless source emerges the first thought, Marbello, the divine womb, the archetype of all consciousness, the feminine face of infinity. Marbello is not a deity, but the first reflection the invisible spirit perceives of itself, a mirror made of pure awareness. Together, the invisible spirit and Marbello generate the Aeons, luminous beings that function like facets of divine intelligence. Think of them as cosmic archetypes: mind, truth, wisdom, life, forethought, afterthought. Each Aeon radiates a different aspect of the divine, but none are separate from the source. They are the waves of a single ocean. This vast family of Aeons is called the pleroma, the fullness. It is a realm without lack, without ignorance, without division. A realm where consciousness creates effortlessly and all beings exist in harmony with the ultimate source. But the story turns when we come to Sophia, the Aeon of divine wisdom. Unlike the others, who always emanate in balanced male-female syzygies, Sophia acts alone. Her longing to know the source directly, without her partner, generates an emanation outside the pleroma, a being shaped by her desire, but lacking her divine clarity. That being is Yaldabaoth. The Sethians described him as powerful but blind, a creator who believes he is the only God, because he cannot perceive the realms above him. And in that ignorance, he fashions the material cosmos, a mixture of brilliance and distortion, beauty and imprisonment. But here is the key. Not everything he creates is flawed. Without knowing it, Yaldabaoth steals a fragment of Sophia's light and implants it in humanity. To the Sethians, this was not a mistake. It was a cosmic accident that became a cosmic opportunity. The divine spark within human beings is the piece of the pleroma that survived the fall. It is the memory of the invisible spirit still pulsing inside a world ruled by forgetfulness. This is why the Sethians believed humanity is not fallen. Humanity is trapped, not sinful, but sleeping. Not cursed, but exiled. The role of Seth, son of Adam, not only as a historical figure, but as a mythic archetype, is to awaken this hidden spark. The Sethians saw themselves as the immovable race, those capable of reclaiming the divine memory buried beneath matter and illusion. They believed that salvation is not bestowed from above, not earned through morality, not guaranteed by faith alone. Salvation is simply this: remembering who you are. And that remembering comes through Gnosis, direct experiential knowing, the moment of awakening when the soul recognizes its origin in the pleroma and sees the material world for what it truly is, a beautifully woven veil. This is the essence of Sethianism, cosmic psychology woven into myth, a metaphysics of identity, a story where the human soul is not the creation of a jealous lesser god, but the child of a forgotten infinity. And yet, we have only begun to peel back the layers. Because the Sethians did not stop at cosmology, they developed visionary techniques, initiatory rituals, and symbolic teachings designed to guide the soul through the realms governed by the Archons, and back toward the unbroken light of the pleroma. In the next section, we will enter those teachings, the realms, the guardians, the pathways of ascent, and the profound secrets Sethian Gnosticism reveals about the human condition. Before continuing, a gentle reminder: if you're drawn to this kind of deep esoteric knowledge, subscribe to Labyrinth of the Veiled and join those exploring the hidden architecture of reality. To understand Sethian Gnosticism fully, we must follow the arc of its story, from the luminous heights of the pleroma to the dense, tangled layers of the material cosmos, and finally into the secret path of ascent known only to those who awaken. This section is where the Sethian worldview becomes not just mythology, but diagnosis of the human condition. Because for the Sethians, humanity's struggle isn't moral, it isn't psychological, it isn't even spiritual in the way we use the word today. It is ontological, a crisis created at the level of being itself. Let us begin where the anterior part left off. When Yaldabaoth fashioned the cosmos, he did not do so alone. From his own distorted nature emerged the Archons, cosmic administrators, but with the awareness of bureaucrats and the ambition of tyrants. The Sethian texts describe them as rulers, gatekeepers, or more poetically, the wardens of a beautiful cage. Each Archon governs a planetary sphere, not literal planets, but metaphysical layers of experience that shape perception, desire, identity, and fate. The Archons are not evil in the cartoonish sense. They do not lurk in shadows, waiting to harm humanity. Their true danger is subtler. They stabilize the illusion we mistake for reality. They influence instinct, cultural norms, even collective fears, not by possessing individuals, but by maintaining the psychic architecture that keeps consciousness asleep. For the Sethians, to awaken meant to recognize these forces for what they are, not devils, but cosmic blind spots, the residue of a creator who does not remember his own mother. Seth, the third son of Adam and Eve, was more than a patriarchal figure in the Sethian worldview. He was understood as the first fully awakened human, the one whose inner spark had not been dimmed by the Archon's influence. His lineage, the immovable race, was not defined by blood, but by consciousness, those capable of carrying the divine memory within them, even while navigating the world of form. In Seth, the Sethians saw the archetype of the awakened soul, clear, self-knowing, unbound by the illusions of the Demiurge, yet still present in the world to guide those who are ready to remember. In later Sethian texts, Christ is often identified with Seth, or with the divine emanation of which Seth was the earthly reflection. This reveals something profound. For Sethian Gnostics, the Christ was not a savior who died for sin, but a messenger who came to remind humanity of its forgotten origin. Salvation was not a sacrifice, it was a signal. In Sethian cosmology, Christ descends not to appease the Demiurge, but to illuminate the path of escape. He does not descend in flesh, the way the Orthodox tradition insists. He descends as light, as knowledge, as the pulse within the soul that whispers, "You are not from here." The message is unmistakable. You belong to the pleroma. You have always belonged to the pleroma. You were never the creation of the Archons, and you were never meant to remain in their world. Christ's role in the Sethian tradition is that of a cosmic guide, a revealer of forgotten truths, a navigator of the invisible realms. In some texts, he even disguises himself from the archons to transmit knowledge to those capable of receiving it. This is why the Sethians placed such emphasis on Gnosis, not belief, not doctrine, not obedience, but direct knowing, an experience that disarms the false rulers because it exposes their domain as transient. The journey of the awakened Sethian soul is described not as a ladder, but as a sequence of unveilings. 1. Awakening from forgetfulness. The soul recognizes its true origin. 2. Detachment from the archon's influence, not by fighting them, but by no longer resonating with their illusions. 3. Passing through the planetary spheres. Each realm requires the soul to shed a layer of identity and reclaim a piece of its original power. 4. Reunion with Sophia and the pleroma, where the divine spark rejoins the fullness from which it first emerged. The archons cannot obstruct this ascent, because enlightenment dissolves their influence the way sunlight dissolves mist. This path was never meant for the many, only for those who could recognize the world as a story told by a being who did not know the whole truth. Only for those capable of remembering their origin in the invisible realms. In the next section, we will shift from myth to practice, from cosmic architecture to inner alchemy. Because Sethian Gnosticism is not just a worldview, it is a method, a way of transforming consciousness so that the soul can navigate its way home. Up to this point, we have walked through myth, cosmology, and the secret architecture of the Sethian universe. But the ancient Gnostics were never interested in myth for its own sake. For them, every story was a map, every cosmology a mirror, and every revelation a method. Sethian Gnosticism is not about worship. It is about transformation. The question now becomes, how does one live as the immovable race, a soul rooted in truth while moving through a world built on illusion? Let us explore the practices, mindsets, and disciplines that echo the ancient Sethian path. 1. Practicing radical awareness, the first awakening. In Sethian texts, the greatest danger is not suffering, it is forgetfulness. To forget one's origin is to fall asleep inside the dream of the Demiurge, to accept the world as the final truth instead of a temporary arena. The first Sethian practice is cultivating radical awareness. Begin by observing the world with quiet suspicion, not fear, but clarity. Ask yourself throughout the day, is this impulse mine, or is it inherited from the world around me? Is this desire chosen or implanted by culture, fear, or instinct? Who is thinking this thought? This simple form of self-inquiry breaks the automatic spell of the archons. Gnostics believed that the soul awakens the moment it realizes it is dreaming. 2. Cultivating inner silence, escaping the noise of the archons. The archons are not literal beings whispering in the ear. They operate through distraction, habit, and compulsion, the noise of the mind. Silence was their kryptonite. Sethian mystics practiced forms of inner stillness to separate their awareness from the psychic currents of the world. Try this small but powerful ritual. Sit quietly for 5 minutes each morning. Close your eyes. Imagine your thoughts as clouds drifting across the sky. Do not chase them. Do not fight them. Simply watch. Eventually, a gap appears, a break in the stream. That gap is the doorway to the pleroma. The soul doesn't ascend by force. It ascends by remembering itself. 3. Imagining the ascent through the spheres, the Gnostic visualization. One of the most transformative Sethian practices is the mental rehearsal of the soul's final journey, the ascent past the archons. In quiet meditation, visualize yourself rising through luminous spheres, each one a layer of identity dissolving. In the first sphere, shed fear. In the second, shed social expectation. In the third, shed pride. In the fourth, Shed desire. Continue upward, releasing any belief or attachment that claims the right to define you. This was not just symbolic. Ancient Gnostics believed that rehearsing the ascent prepared the soul for its real departure at the moment of death, allowing it to pass the gatekeepers without being detained. As they taught, what you practice now is what you become beyond. 4. Invoking the divine spark, the Sethian heart practice. Another Sethian exercise is recognizing the light within. Focus your attention on the center of your chest. Imagine a small flame there, not bright, but steady, ancient, and indestructible. This is the pneuma, the divine element Sophia breathed into humanity. Whisper inwardly, I am from the fullness. I am not from here. I remember. This simple invocation was believed to weaken the influence of the archons by aligning the soul with its true origin. Identity is power. When you know who you are, the false rulers cannot bind you. 5. Living as the immovable race, walking as a being of two worlds. Sethian Gnostics were taught to live in society without being internalized by it, to move through the world as if moving through a story, respecting its characters, learning from its events, but never mistaking the stage for the home. To live as the immovable race means you observe emotions without being consumed by them. You act in the world without letting the world define you. You seek knowledge not as information, but as illumination. This is not detachment, it is discernment. A Sethian is not cold or withdrawn. They are lucid, awake within the dream. 6. The 3 mistakes to avoid, according to the Sethians. The ancient texts warn seekers against 3 errors that trap the soul. 1. Mistaking information for Gnosis. Reading the cosmology is not enough. You must experience the truth it points to. 2. Falling into despair about the material world. The Demiurge's domain is flawed, but it is also the training ground for awakening. 3. Seeking escape instead of transformation. The goal is not to flee the world, but to wake up within it. These teachings make the Sethian path challenging, but also deeply empowering. You are not asked to believe. You are asked to remember. 7. A final reflection before the conclusion. The heart of Sethian practice is simple. Become who you were before the world told you who to be. Or, in the words of the Gnostic teachers, the spark returns to the spark. In the end, the story of Sethian Gnosticism is not a relic of ancient myth, nor a curiosity preserved in a desert jar for academic dissection. It is a message, sharp, luminous, and unsettling, addressed to anyone who has ever felt like a stranger in this world. It begins with a whisper, "You are more than you appear to be." And it ends with a revelation, "You have forgotten something essential, and now it is time to remember." The Sethian writings describe humanity not as fallen, but as asleep, wandering through a reality built from half-truths, manufactured identities, and inherited fears. The Demiurge does not imprison through violence. He imprisons through illusion. He convinces the soul that the cage is all that exists. Sethian Gnosticism shatters that illusion, not by destroying the world, but by revealing the light hidden within it. The real battle is not external, it is internal. It is the struggle to recall the spark you carry, the fragment of Sophia, the memory of the pleroma, the infinite within the finite. For the ancient Sethians, the ultimate goal wasn't salvation through obedience, nor redemption through belief. It was one thing, Gnosis, direct knowing, unmediated truth, the kind of clarity that cannot be taught, only recognized. It is the moment when you realize that every archon you feared was merely the echo of your own unexamined mind. It is the moment when you stop living reactively and begin living consciously. It is the moment when you know, not intellectually, but viscerally, that consciousness preceded creation, and you are a shard of that consciousness walking through matter. There is a reason these teachings vanished for 1,600 years. A reason they were buried. A reason the Sethians were called heretics and erased from the world's memory. Because a society built on control cannot tolerate a person who knows themselves. A self-aware human being cannot be governed by fear, cannot be manipulated by shame, cannot be conditioned into forgetting. Gnosis is liberation, and liberation is dangerous to the powers that rule the visible and invisible worlds. That is why the Sethians spoke in symbols, hid their texts, and passed their insights only to those ready to carry the weight of truth. If this exploration resonated with you, even a little, it may be because something within you is stirring. The ancient Sethians would say that the spark within you heard its own name and answered. You are not asked to accept their cosmology literally. You are invited to use it as a mirror, a mythic technology, a way of seeing the world that reveals what has always been present. The invitation is simple. Look deeper. Remember who you were before conditioning covered your inner fire. Walk through the world not as a pawn in a cosmic drama, but as an emissary of the hidden light. If the world around you is a dream crafted by lesser gods, then who might you become the moment you decide to wake up? If you found meaning here today, if something inside you shifted, or stirred, or remembered, consider subscribing and joining the growing circle of seekers in Labyrinth of the Veiled. And if you feel called, share your thoughts in the comments. Your insight may be the spark that awakens someone else.